Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could have your attention, it is. What happened? I guess I have to step back here. It is 10 a.m., which is the appointed hour. I'm so glad to see all of you here today. My name is Julie Smith, and I have the honor of serving as the mayor of the City of Tifton. We're going to go through a few housekeeping procedures, if you don't mind, at first, so that we can move into the meat of our matter. We have had to cut off the folks coming in. Our public safety officials are here, and they're concerned about the occupancy load of this room should something happen. So if you have friends that you were waiting to see here and they couldn't get in, let them know that we are streaming this live on Facebook. We have several of the media here, so you can get information. If we need to do another town hall meeting, you have our commitment that we will. I don't have a date for you yet. We have talked about maybe having another one immediately after this meeting. Problem is, I'm not sure exactly what time this meeting will end to tell those folks to come back. But if there is a demand for another one, you have our word and our commitment that we will provide another one. Please excuse my voice. I've got some summer crud that's going on. I've got my water up here, and if I break out to a coughing fit, just be patient with me and we'll get back on board. But I did want to say, first of all, thank you very much to the YMCA and to Tifton Regional Medical Center for allowing us to use this facility. Many of you have asked, why couldn't we do this at the conference center or at the high school football stadium? Believe me, we looked at every single locale that we could find in this community to try to have this meeting to accommodate as many people as possible. There was a significant charge for using the UGA Conference Center. We didn't think that was a good use of your tax dollars to pay several $1,000s to hold a meeting. So we'll just have multiple meetings if that's what we need to do. Our fire department's getting toned out. I do want to let you know that this is considered an official city council meeting, and because we are in an official city council meeting, there are certain things that we have to do per state law, per our city charter. If you're in your office and you just want to collect around the water cooler and complain about your property taxes, and there's 3 or 4 of y'all together doing that, that's perfectly legit and perfectly fine. But when an elected official gets in that situation, that constitutes a quorum. And so we do have to notice the public, which we've done for this meeting. City Attorney, or have we noticed the public appropriately?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we also have Jessica White, who is our city clerk. She will be taking minutes of this meeting because it is an official city meeting. We do have to record those minutes. Emily Beeman is our city manager. She's sitting next to Ms. White, and she will be there. Rob Wilmot is our city attorney. I've asked him to be present just in case any of you might have a question that needs legal clarification. I'm not an attorney. So Rob will be there to help us with that. We also have Hayward Beckton, who's in the orange shirt back here. Hayward is going to be presenting most of what you'll hear today, and I think is the reason that most of you are here to learn that information. I've had a lot of people ask me, why is the city doing this? If the city did not initiate this, why are you hosting this meeting? And I want to share with you why we're doing this. It's very important to me as an elected official to provide information to my community. And in a situation like this, it doesn't matter if you live in Brookfield or Chula or downtown Tifton or Route 2, Box 12. It does not matter. You were in Tift County, and we had information that we were privy to as elected officials that we felt it was important that you, as the residents and citizens and business and property owners of this county, had access to as well. So we're the purveyors of information today. The Tifton City Council is in the same boat that every single one of you are. We don't have a vote on what happens with certain things because we are City Council, not County Commission. So even though it's sort of not our battle, it's not it's not our vote, it's not ours to explain, I felt like as the mayor of Tifton, it is ours to provide to you. It is ours to provide to you the information so that you can make informed decisions on your particular situation with your property taxes. So some of the questions that you may ask today, we may have to answer with an I don't know. Some of the questions that you may ask today, I may call on Hayward to answer, or Jeff Gibbs. Where is Jeff? I know Jeff Gibbs is here. Oh, there he is. Jeff Gibbs is the chair of our Board of Assessors. So even though he doesn't have an official part on this program, he's here to verify or answer any questions. We wanted everyone to be here that needed to be here so that your questions can be asked. You can ask your questions and get the answers that you need. One second. I do want to let you know I'm going to go back to that city council meeting. As the mayor, I am the parliamentarian of our meetings. So I will be the one that will sort of be conducting who's coming up, when questions will be asked and answered, who's next on the agenda, and that type of thing. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So I'm considered the parliamentarian. When we come time to question and answer, and we will get to that point at the end of the presentations, we'll have a microphone where we will come to you in the audience. If you don't mind, if you'll stand, state your name, state your address, and then ask your questions. I do want to go over, we have some rules of decorum. Every time that we have a city council meeting, these rules of decorum are listed on our agendas. And so, unfortunately, we ran out of agendas this morning, but you see them there on the screen, and I'll go over them very quickly. During the public comment and question time, each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. Each speaker will direct their comments to the members of the governing body. In other words, if Faye Lowe has a question, Faye, don't ask, don't ask Donna over there. You direct your questions here, and then we'll try to answer them. So there's no questioning of other audience members and things like that. Each speaker will please refrain from personal attacks, foul or abusive language, and please maintain a civil and courteous manner and tone. Members will respect the rights of others and will not create noise or other disturbances that will disrupt or disturb the meeting. We are all neighbors. We all know each other. So there's no reason for attack. Again, we're just the messengers of the information to provide you with everything that you know, that you need to know to appeal your new reassessment value. We're going to go over millage rate. I'm going to explain how that works. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of the City of Tifton. So if you're a resident of Ty, it might be different for Ty. If you're a resident of the unincorporated area, it might be a little bit different on that millage rate only. But I hope to be able to at least provide enough information so that when you go talk to your county commissioner or your city council representative, you've got the information that you need. All right, let's see. I would like to ask everyone to please turn your phones to silent so that we have as few disruptions as possible. Yes, you can go back to them. Thank you. And I'm technologically challenged. Thank goodness we have Stacy Britton here to help us out. Please turn your phones to silent. There are restrooms. If you go out the back, the very back door in the back corner back here, the restrooms are behind this room. So if you need to take a break, please do so. I also want to remind you that today we're not here to talk about potholes or my garbage didn't get picked up or something like that. I know we have potholes. I know sometimes we have garbage misses and things. If you have an issue with that, come see me after the meeting or give me a call. Today we're just going to limit our information to the reassessment and the process for what to do from this point forward on your reassessment. Now I'd like to introduce the people that I get to work with every day. I've already introduced several of them. I'd like to recognize several of our council members today and note that we do have one missing. MJ Hall, who represents District 4, could not be with us today. He wanted to be. He had a trip planned many weeks ago before we set this, so he could not change that commitment. But I'd like to recognize Lester Cromer. Lester, if you'll just stand and wave your hand so everybody knows who you are. Josh Reynolds, who also serves as our vice mayor. And then Michael Franks, the little short fella at the end of the row there. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, Rob Willman, our city attorney. Emily Beeman, our city manager. Jessica White, our city clerk. And I think that's everybody. Are there any other elected officials, city, county, otherwise, that I did not recognize? Anybody that we need to? I see Chad Alexander back there. For those of you who are on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, you know that this is not Chad's fault. Chad has made that very clear. So Chad is also here. He's going to, I've asked him to be, he was graciously agreed to be here. We like to pick on Chad. He's our Tift County Tax Commissioner. So if there's anything that Chad needs to address as far as clarification or answer specific questions. So between Hayward Beckton, Chad, between the attorney, I think we've got everybody covered. I do need to clarify something. I had mentioned, I did an interview with Mr. Fowler with Fun Channel a couple of days ago, and I appreciate him giving me the opportunity to do that. I was under the impression that the contractor that did these assessments would be here today to answer questions. That was not correct. So, I apologize for that. That's all I can say. I don't know what else to tell you, but Hayward is going to go over when he gets, not Hayward Fowler, but Hayward Beckton, when he gets to his point on the program, he's going to share some information with you about the contractor. All right, I think I have covered everything. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Everybody good? Again, I apologize about the lack of seating. We're doing the best that we can, but thank you for your patience. All right, Hayward, I'm going to turn everything over to you. Hayward Beckton, as I said, is our Tift County Chief Appraiser, and he works with the Tift County Tax Assessor's Office, and he's been a busy fellow for the past few days. So, Hayward.
Good morning, everyone. For those of y'all that don't know, I'm Hayward Beckton. I'm Chief Appraiser of Tift County. Can y'all hear me? Is that a yes or no? No. How about now? Is that better?
Gotta hold it.
Is that better? Sorry, y'all. Know a lot of y'all have questions. If you start asking questions about your individual parcel, I can't answer that. That's a question to have in my office. But we're going to start with this screen that is up right now. Everybody wants to know why this was done. This was done because we fell out of ratio with the allowed ratios allowed by the Georgia Department of Revenue. And those ratios are monitored yearly in every county by the Georgia Department of Audits. They do ratio studies. Ratio studies, without getting too in depth, that's sales versus assessed value. If you'll see this letter up on the screen, that is the letter that the county received, the tax commissioner received, and the board of commissioners received. This letter, if you can see it, go to the next screen, please. Will tell you right there at the bottom where you can see those percentages. That's the allowed ratio we're allowed to be in. The very first one is agricultural median ratio, was measured at 30.52. The required lowest level is 36. Your tax base is 40% of your assessed value. So we were below. The next one is commercial. We were at 28.95. The absolute lowest you can be is 36. Industrial, we were at 29.86. Residential, 30.77. Overall, 34.53. When that happens, a county receives this letter from the Revenue Commissioner explaining to you, you are out of ratio, and therefore you shall correct this ratio. To correct that ratio, you have to revalue property. That's not one property, that's all property. So when this happened, I informed the Board of Commissioners that we were out of ratio and we have to conduct a revaluation. There's approximately 19,350 parcels in Tift County. That's a lot of parcels to do. So we submitted out to several companies to get quotes to do revaluations. The county clerk put this request out on the procurement website through the state of Georgia. Had a zero response from that. There was 3 other companies that we submitted to. I had one company email me a couple of questions. They never submitted anything else. The company that did the reval, they sent in a quote. The Board of Assessors reviewed that quote. The Board of Commissioners reviewed that quote. The county attorney then reviewed the contract, and then it was approved, and then we started moving forward with revaluation. The process for the revaluation, they had a team of field appraisers come in. Those appraisers went parcel to parcel. And all this, y'all, this started back in 2022. And it's just now getting to your assessment notes. They went out parcel to parcel. They did reviews to ensure the accuracy of our records, to make sure we didn't have structures on our cards that shouldn't be there. If there's new structures that we didn't know about, they picked those up. They verified measurements. We're all human. So when I say verify measurements, I'm not sitting here saying every single measurement that was done is 100% accurate, because we're human, we're all bound to make mistakes. So they did all that. In the background, there's other appraisers for that company that they analyze the sales data. And they collect that data. And that data comes from PT61s and deeds that are recorded at the court's office. Those data, they compile that data, they come up with sale ratio studies, and they come up with new per square foot cost that goes into a system with a whole lot of other factors that comes up with a formula for us to key in all your data and then arrive at our new values. And that's basically how that process works. Go to the next one. This is just a reference. This just shows the trend from the beginning of 21 to the end of 2023. This trend right here is from deed entry, PT61 entry through our local court. This is any parcel that has residential structure on it. It could have been a 1/4 acre parcel. It could have been a 50 acre parcel. It could have been a home that's 800 square feet. It could have been a home 5,000 square feet. But that trend in the last 3 years has went from the average of $58 a square foot to $143 a square foot. Now that includes land, accessory buildings, home, everything. That's just a model to show you the market has been steadily climbing. So that helps support the reason that our ratio bottomed out. I know there's going to be a question coming. I'm going to go ahead and answer now. Why haven't we raised 3 to 5% every year? Because we are allowed to be within from 36 to 44% with our sales ratio. As long as we are within that range, we're okay. We're not overvaluing, we're not undervaluing. But when we fail, we're undervaluing, so we had to revalue. That's it. That's how the process works. It's pretty simple. And all this is regulated by state statute. And it's law. It's what every county in the state has to do. And I'm ready for any questions. If it's a question.
Does anybody have questions about the process? Because we're going to get into taxes and all that in just a second. Okay, let's go on.
Member, please to state your name and your address for the record for the city clerk.
My name is Greg Nelson. I live out on Paul Road. You didn't evaluate the property. You said you got all these people coming to evaluate them. They can't get in my property. You can't see my house from the road. So how'd they evaluate it?
Okay, if the gates were locked, they didn't go through a gate, they would take the data that we currently have, and that would roll up, but then the values will still change because we change the square foot value of every structure. And we have a formula that goes through.
So why, I just had it appraised, it doesn't appraise for near what you said.
That's an appeal process. You need to come to the office and appeal your value.
My name is Andrea Hutto. I want to know, 1404 Bilbowen Road. I want to know how the road, Bilbowen Road, got annexed into the city and why.
We are only here to talk about assessments today. That has nothing to do with the assessments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then, just like that guy said, how can they assess the house whenever they can't get behind the house to see what's going on? I mean, they see a building back there, but it's not livable in, so they're assuming what? That it's another house behind the house?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
How do they know then?
Reassessment doesn't necessarily mean, right, both of y'all were saying that they couldn't get to your property eventually. So what we've done is the data we previously had, that stays there. Except reassessment means we're reassessing everything. That means we're changing a value to the market. A market value has been applied, and all of those cost tables have been adjusted. So your value will change because the market demands that a home sells for more per square foot now than it did previously. It doesn't mean we have to physically see it, but it's better that if we haven't seen your property, you need to file an appeal. If you think we didn't get out and get a measurement on it, you come file that appeal. And then if your gate's locked, if you want us to change your square footage or verify that square footage, you're going to have to let us on the property to see it. If not, we can't change that part of the data.
Okay.
Stacy, there's up here in the front. Hang on a second. I'll come across. I'm short legs here.
No.
Hi, my name is Jade Kelly, and I live on Georgia Drive here in Tifton. I would like to have the formula that was used to create ours. So you got all the information, and then it was put into a formula. Could we see the formula and what is plugged into that data?
If you'll make an appointment, come to my office.
But that's not individual for me. I mean, is there anybody else who would like to have the formula so that you can figure it out?
Can I say something to you about that?
If we all get really loud, I know this is a hot issue, if we all get really loud, then nobody hears, and we'll be here all day. And I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather spend a couple hours in your pool this afternoon. So, all right, you're ready. I don't have a pool either. I said I would rather. I know, but let's not get loud and create, arguments here.
Okay.
The formula.
A sales ratio takes sales versus assessed value, comes up with a ratio. When that ratio falls below that range, you're out of range. You have to revalue. Part of that's basically you got to get sales and analyze that data. There's lots of data that's put into a spreadsheet that comes up with what the square foot value should be, or the per acre cost of land should be. This is a very complex situation. It's a lot more than y'all think. Just take 10 sales, come up with average $50 a square foot or whatever. It's a lot different than that. And I basically have explained that to you. And that's what I'm saying. It's hard for everybody to understand that without really going through all the training.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, we're going to be civil here today. We're trying to provide the answers for you. You may not like the answers. I get that. We will make everything available for you that we possibly can. We may not have it today, but you have our guarantee. We will do everything possible. If we can put that on the county website, if we can put it somewhere where everybody has access to it, you have our commitment that we will do that. So we may not have it this moment, but we are making notes. Everything is being recorded so that we can go back and provide the information. I would also like to ask, as you stand up and address your question, which is fine to do, remember, state your name and address, but when you're finished, give other people the opportunity, because people, like what you were just saying, they can't hear you back there, so they don't know. So go ahead and ask all that you can. Let's give everybody ample opportunity to ask. So if you've already asked a question, please let your because probably they're going to ask the same thing you're thinking. So let's be civil, let's be respectful, and then we'll be able to move through and get you as much data as possible. So, sir, you were next.
Thank you. My name is Vince Watkins. I live on 624 16th Street East. The law very specifically says that these need to be fair market value. Now, usually when an appraisal is done, you have, to be proper, it needs to have at least 3 comparable values of recent sales. That's the way it's done if you want to hit fair market value. The reason we're all here is that you've got us valued at prices that we know we can't sell these homes for. It's not fair market value. It just isn't, and we can't pretend that it is.
Okay. Basically what you just did, you're trying to have me answer comparing a fee appraisal with a mass appraisal. We are mass appraisal. We don't go out and look at a house and find 3 exact comparables to do that. We're mass appraising.
And you can't find fair market value if you don't do that. Why not? Because that's not the way appraisals work.
Are you finished?
Probably not.
Okay, because sales data, and that's what y'all need to listen to now, sales data. We have to apply factors to each parcel when that sales data is compiled. Each house has grade, each house has an effective year that creates the physical condition of that home. Each house has heated square footage. Each house may or may not have a garage, carport, screen porch, open porch, wood deck, patio. There's many components that go into each parcel. None of y'all live in the exact same identical home. None of y'all take care of your home the exact same way.
That doesn't address what I'm talking about.
But it addresses your fair market value. And the way to resolve that, if you have a home that you feel is overvalued, then that's what the appeal process is for you to come in and
people
appeal.
who think that their homes have been overassessed. That's why we're here.
That's
right.
We're going to go over with you. I'm going to have Hayward go over with you next. What is your appeal process? After he does that, then I'm going to talk to you about millage rate and how millage rate impacts. So again, you may not like the answer. The answer is the answer. We're not going to argue back and forth on an assessment. And if you rather than calling it an appraisal, it's really an assessment. An appraisal, there's a market value appraisal where you do use the 3 comparable sales and they go in and measure square footage and they make adjustments and things like that to come up with different values, or replacement value or resale value and that type of thing. So that's not what that's not what happened with your properties. And again, we're just trying to provide the information. So the arguing that didn't happen is not going to change what happened. All we can do is give you the information. Sir, I'm going to, if you don't mind, let me finish and then I'll let you.
That's not what the law requires.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave that to our attorney. But if you rather than use the word appraisal, if you'll use the word assessment, because it is different. And if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about millage, because I think what so many people are worried about is what are your taxes going to be at the end of the day.
Amen.
So let's go ahead and talk about millage. Stacy Bill's got his hand back there. Let him. We'll take about 3 more questions, then I'm going to move on, and then we'll have more question and answer at the end. But please be respectful. Please be understanding of the answer. We will get you as much information. Like I said, Jessica's taking notes. Anything that comes out of this meeting that was a demand for information, we'll get that to you. We may not have it all today, but we will. Bill?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My name is Bill Bowen. I live in Berrien County, in Nagle, Georgia. Turner Church Road, but I have investment property here in Tifton. So I hate being in your shoes to have to just all the appraisal side of it and calculations per parcel. So you got your work cut out for you. But going back to the big picture for a second, you said that the state mandated this ratio, and you've been out of ratio for a while. So are you telling me that the state requires you to specifically and immediately come into ratio? Or does the state, I mean, if you got a swing from 36% to 44% allowed, which I don't believe that, but if that's the case, that's okay. But are you telling me the state would expect you to snap in line, a population to snap in line in any given tax population overnight? Or is it a situation where you have the ability to appeal to the state and say, we understand our ratio, we understand the different components of specific tax basis out of ratio, and we will reassess. But is there a graduated plan within which we need to be in ratio from a billing standpoint? Meaning, I think that's your problem here, is that you went from here to here in this big sticker shock that's going on. So, the last question is, what is the provision that talks to the state to graduate the adjustment or graduate the effect of the adjustment versus, or even graduate coming into ratio versus some snap decision to go from here to yon overnight? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your comments and your questions. In 2019, we had an overall ratio of 38.04%. 2018 was 38.45. 2020, we went to 34.85. And in 2020, when I received that Department of Audit's ratio, there was 18 other counties that year fell below 36%. In 2021, we had fell a little bit more at 34.53%. That year there was 44 counties that were below the 36% allowed ratio. The last ratio was for 2022. We were at 30% ratio. There were 69 counties that year out of compliance. The Department of Revenue doesn't say, you change this right now. This has been over a 3-year ongoing process. Our ratios have been declining. With every now and then there's a year we're right there at it, might have went up a little, might have went down a little bit. But the market beginning in 19 and 20 really changed.
Yeah, look, you might answer my question. Look, you
I can't hear you. I can't hear you, sir.
Come on.
I got you. I heard you.
Look.
That's what it is.
This process started in 2022.
That's not the question.
Okay.
That's not the question.
Well, the graduated started 2 years ago.
Listen, we acting like government robots here. That's not the question. Anybody can be a department. Anybody can quote what somebody else has asked them to do. Anybody can be a citizen and question the law.
Right.
Okay, so that's not the question. The question is don't repair it back to me. Those ratios, we get that. That does nothing for us. That's all it is. The question is, what are the available options today to deal with the state about some graduating plan having to do with this whole thing? One final statement. And this goes for more than just real estate. This price jump that we've had is not inflation. This is not a natural market. It's not a natural market. Would you agree with that?
This is a Tift County market.
No, I'm talking about.
We only deal with Tift County.
Allow me to ask you a question. Is this a natural market? And the answer is no. This is no different than the oil embargo recovery during the 70s, no different than several other times, no different than the Great Recession, which was caused by an aberration like this. This is a train wreck. It's not a natural market. So somebody ought to take that into account, even at the state level. This is not a situation where everything happens in 3 years, like you say, oh man, this happened over 3 years. Well, sure it did. So I'm just asking you, one final time, what are our options with the state?
Call your local representatives and talk to them about it, because I have to follow the laws of Georgia as they're presented currently. If they change those laws, then we have to follow those.
Then we're not being represented by our representatives.
That's not me.
That is a state, this is a state mandate.
It doesn't matter.
But we have to abide by the law. I mean, we have to abide by the law as government. If we didn't, Hayward, would you, okay, y'all please be respectful. Please be respectful. Please be respectful. Please, hold on just a minute, please. All right, Hayward.
Okay. This was
Yeah, that was
Title 48-5-1, and I'm going to read it. The intent and purpose of the tax laws of this state are to have all property and subjects of taxation returned at a value which will be realized from the cash sale, but not the forced sale of the property and subjects, as such property and subjects are usually sold, except as otherwise provided in this chapter. Chapter 48, Title Code of Georgia, is a very long chapter that we have to follow. I say chapter, it's books. And everything that, if you look at those screens we had up previously, you'll read a little bit, and then it'll go to subject to such, subject to such. You have to go back into to know that you're working within those. That's what we're bound by. Keeping property at assessed value. That's it.
Hayward, could you please explain if this did not happen? If you got the letter and just said, we're not going to do that, we don't care. What would have happened with Tift County and the municipalities within Tift County?
If we had not reassessed values, that next letter that we would have got, we would have been fined. When I say we, that's we. That's all of us that pay taxes in Tift County by the state of Georgia every single year until you're compliant. If they only give you a couple of years to get compliant, then they do a consent order to get compliant. Then the state steps in and they will not approve your digest. And when they don't approve your digest, then the tax commissioner cannot send out bills. When a tax commissioner doesn't send out bills, there's no revenue coming. And now we're getting out of questions that I should really even be talking about, because that's someone else, not me.
How much did they fine you? How much did they fine you?
I believe it's $5 a parcel.
Well, that's cheaper than what you done to us.
But you still,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Please be respectful. We really do want to provide this information for you. I know it's frustrating. I know you're angry. I get it. But please be respectful. There's no need to attack somebody, or the answers are the answers. So, Faye,
Here's what I want today.
Hold on, so everybody can hear you.
Here is everybody's fear that's in here. Is there a fear they're going to be put out of their own home? Now let me tell you something about my house, okay? I know I've got a nice house, but I'm not going to be punished because I sacrificed to have a nice house. My taxes went up on my house $8,500. We're paying $14,000 to live in my own house. Now what do y'all think is going to happen to my house? We're going to have to sell it. Because I can't afford to pay that. Damn, if I'm going to work just to pay tax, it ain't going to happen.
Okay, I'm going to address millage. Let me go ahead and address it. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead. If I could, ladies and gentlemen, Give me just a few minutes to go through millage, because what you're talking about is millage. We're going to get to all of your questions. I promise you we will. But you're getting into territory that's part of the next presentation. So put your hands down. It's going to take me about 5 minutes to go through assessment versus millage versus what your tax bill is, okay? So can you give me that courtesy to do that? Okay. Ma'am, if you are going to be disruptive, I'm going to ask for you to be removed.
I have a right to talk. First Amendment.
I have a right to be here, just like you do. And I've given you the right to speak, so I'd like for you to give me the right to speak. This is my personal house. I got an assessment just like every one of you. As much as I would love for elected officials to be exempt from taxation and reassessments, we're not. This is my personal home at 610 North College in the City of Tifton. If you look right kind of down in the sort of towards the bottom in the middle, you'll see that my previous value was $159,282. That was low. Could I sell my house at that time for a lot more? Absolutely, I could. My new assessment is $406,192. $159 to $406. I hear you. I get it. I abide by the same laws and regulations that you do. So please do not think that the city council and the city of Tifton is up here saying, we're going to jam this down your throat and you're going to get over it. We're trying to come to something that will be acceptable for everybody and tell you what the processes are. So that's my new assessment. The law, that state law that was put into place by our legislature, requires that when a new assessment happens, that you're notified in writing and they show you what the current millage rate is, what the rate is today. You can see down at the bottom it says county, school, and Tifton. And then there's a total. If we were to accept this tax digest once it is in place, and again, it won't be in place until you've gone through the appeal process, and you have used every to you to understand this, to dispute it, to do whatever needs to be done. And it's my understanding that many people have already gone to the tax assessor's office and they have rolled it back when there's information that's shared. So please understand there is a process to fix some of this. From 2003 to now, there's been a lot. You can't sling a dead cat in this community without a construction site. Georgia's the #1 state to do business. Those are all great things we like to tout. But with that comes a drive up in value. It's supply and demand. So if we had the current millage rate, the county's millage rate is 11.853. The school millage rate is 16.501. And the City of Tifton's current millage rate is 9.272. If we were to use the current millage rate, then my tax bill would be $5,963, and I believe it says 93 or 03 cents, doesn't matter anyway. Basically $6,000. Now, that's the current millage rate. Can you shift me to the next slide? All right, so keep that in the back of your mind. I want to talk about, this is my last year's tax bill. This is my, you see, this is 2023 ad valorem tax notice. This is, Chad calls it his love letter to all the citizens of this community. If you own property, you get this bill, and you see up at the top it says Tift County Tax Commissioner, and there's all the breakdowns. There was my fair market value of what it was before, and then my tax bill last year, based on that market assessment, was $1,500. That's a big jump to the $6,000 that I got. That's why y'all are all stupid. That's why you're mad. I don't blame you. I'm mad too. Because to go from $1,500 to $6,000, good Lord Almighty, Faye, you're right. We worked hard our lives to have a nice property, and we took care of it. And this was, this is where we're going to, either All Britain or Bowen's going to come take us out when it's time for us to go to the great beyond. So I get it. But it goes back to millage rate. So there are two other things I wanted to point out to you that I've gotten a lot of calls about. One was lost local option sales tax. Many people said, well, y'all wanted us to approve lost and SPLOST, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's different sales tax. That's when you buy something. It's not based on your properties. It's based on when you go to the grocery store, go through Chick-fil-A or something. With the local option sales tax, we did want that approved. That is an ability, by imposing that local option sales tax, it gives the city and county government the opportunity to roll back your property taxes. And here's the proof, right there. Local option, and this is on your tax bill. If you'll see that big blue box, I had Stacy pull this little lost section out, local option sales tax. It's right above that blue box on your tax bill. Mills required for the budget. For the city, it was 19 mills. For the mill rollback reduction, because we had lost, we were able to roll it back 9.7 mills to an actual millage rate of 9.27. So it did roll that back a significant, more than half. Then you look over here at the county. The mills required to meet the county budget, 18.094. The rollback millage rate for the county was 6.241. And then you look at the actual millage rate that was set for the county was 11.853. So for my county taxes, because I'm in the city, I pay city and county. So if you're a city resident, you do the same. If you're in the unincorporated areas, you don't pay city taxes. But if I combine those two numbers, the 522.79 plus the 385, and I can't do math, but we'll just round that up. Let's say that's about $1,000, close to $1,000, $900. In property tax savings that happened because we all approved the local option sales tax. So it does impact your property tax in a positive way. We did roll that millage back. Now, people have also asked me about SPLOST, Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. Those are for extra things that don't come out of the general fund budget. The majority of the general fund budget, I know for the city, I'm going to assume for the county and assume for the school system, they have to answer those questions themselves. But the majority of our funding comes from property tax. It provides firefighters and police officers and all of those things that we expect, services that you expect as a city resident. The special purpose local option sales tax are for extra things. Acquiring land for economic development, maybe buying a new fire truck, maybe putting in sidewalks in a neighborhood that needs sidewalks. Those are extra things that because of that SPLOST funding, it does not come out of the general fund. So you're not paying it with your property tax. You may not be paying for that new fire truck with your property tax. You and all those people who travel up and down these highways and pull into Chick-fil-A or stop and get gas or spend the night in a hotel or shop at Belk's or whatever they do, they're helping pay it because that penny, those 2 pennies, the local option and the special purpose local option, are collected anytime they spend money in this community. So it does have an impact upon your tax rate. Where's my next slide? All right, let me talk to you about millage rate. Yeah, I thought I had an extra slide. I want to talk to you about millage rate. We cannot, the city, nor the county, nor the school board can establish the millage rate until we know what that tax digest number is. And we won't know what that tax digest number is until you have all had the opportunity to go and meet with Hayward or some of his staff to appeal your values. Once you appeal your value, then we can establish the millage rate. You have our guarantee, if you're a City of Tifton resident, you have this council's guarantee that we will be rolling back the millage rate so that you're not going to have, go back to the other slide, you're not going to have that $5,000 or $6,000 impact. It's going to be more in line with that $1,500. Now, I can't guarantee this is going to be dollar for dollar, but we only need X amount of dollars to fund the City of Tifton. We are also required by state law to have a balanced budget. Wouldn't it be nice if Washington had the same, had the same things imposed on them? State law requires we have a balanced budget that's in place and approved by the council by July the 1st of the year that we're in. We're on a fiscal year, July 1st to June 30th. If we don't, any grant funding, any special financing conditions we have, all of that goes away. So it's within your best interest that we have a balanced budget. Is this my Okay. We have a balanced budget, taking not one penny more than is needed to run the City of Tifton organization and provide services and everything that is needed by a population of about 17,000 people. So we will be rolling that millage rate back. Now, I don't have any county representatives here, but I've spoken at length with County Commission Chairman McBrayer, and he has assured me that the county is going to be rolling that millage rate back. So you have three options, three things to consider today as we are all angry and frustrated with this process. One is please appeal your tax bill. It's not a tax bill, your assessment notice. Please appeal your assessment notice. Go sit down with these folks. They will talk to you. They will look at everything. They will explain all of this to you. But I do ask that you make an appointment. As you can imagine, they're extremely busy right now, but they will schedule an appointment for you, and they will spend as much time as necessary to talk with you about that. I've already had people call me and say, I went down there, it was a good experience, mine got dropped $100,000 or whatever it was, and so they're moving on. The other thing is to understand that once that digest is established, then hold our feet to the fire to roll that millage rate back, because that's what your tax bill is based on. There is value as a component of it, but millage rate is the other component of it. And then we can set that millage rate, and like I said, I can't guarantee that it will be $1 per dollar. So if I paid $1,500 last year, but I'm going to pay $1,500, it may be $1,700. I don't know. But we're going to do our dead level best to make that happen as a city. Again, I can't speak for the county commission, and I can't speak for the school board. I would encourage you to contact them and ask those same questions of them. Does all of that make sense? And kind of get where I'm going? Okay, let's open the floor back up for questions. So, back there. Okay. Come on, Caleb.
My name is Ricky Pollock. I live on West Sycamore Road in northwest of Tift County. Didn't you say that part of the assessment is by homes that's been sold around? Didn't you say it was some of it was based on home sales?
Reassessment is because the sales of all property types in the county have changed. They're not selling.
That's part of the formula?
That's the main part of the formula, is the collection of sales data. And it all ties, I know y'all are tired of hearing it, but it all ties back to the ratio.
I met with y'all yesterday. Wasn't you, it was another guy.
Okay.
And I carried some comps up there. One right around the corner from my house. That house was 1,100 square feet larger than mine. It was brick. Mine's not. And it stayed on the market for 3 years before they got their first offer. The house sold for $250,000. My assessment went up more than what I could have bought that house for. And I told the guy yesterday, and he says, well, you know, he's got a little hole he can crawl in over here and, you know, try to justify it. Anyway, I got nowhere. So my appeal is going to the next step. Question I have, what happens when I'm not satisfied there?
Okay. The way the appeal process is, you file your appeal with the Board of Assessors office. That's us. We review it. You came, you spoke with someone, you didn't come to an agreeable value. The next step is you will receive either a no change letter or you'll receive a 30-day notice, where when we look at your property, see if there's any adjustments to be made. If there's any adjustments to be made, that value will change. You'll get a 30-day notice. When you receive that 30-day notice, that's what it is, 30 days. You have 30 days from the date of that notice to appeal to the BOE, the Board of Equalization. Then, when you file that appeal to the Board of Equalization, we forward those documents to the clerk of court of Tift County. They will start setting up Board of Equalization hearings. And then at that point, the taxpayer goes to the Board of Equalization. They provide the data that they have to support their value. The Board of Assessors Office, we have to compile our data to support our value. We present our presentation. The taxpayer presents their presentation, and the Board of Equalization will make a ruling. Then from that, if the taxpayer is dissatisfied with the Board of Equalization ruling, then they can appeal that appeal of the Board of Equalization to the Superior Court. Okay.
Hey, very quickly, because we're talking about the appeal process, it was asked, can you go through this process online, or do you have to do it in person?
You can do it either way. An appeal, the law on appeal is very simple. I can receive on a napkin. You could have went to McDonald's this morning and got mad and said, I want to appeal my property. Come in Monday morning, hand us that napkin, give us your name and your address, and let's verify your parcel number. That's an appeal. That's all it takes. We had an email from a lady this week. This is kind of irrelevant. She was a senior citizen. She couldn't figure out how to do it online. We responded to her to send us back her address and just state in her email, I want to appeal my property. She has a valid appeal. But it's simple to do an appeal. You can go online. You can either go to the county website, then link into the tax assessor page, then go to the property search. You got to get to Q Public. When you get to Q Public, you put in the information for your property. You can search by name or address. When your property info comes up in the top left-hand corner, there's a blue tab that says File an Appeal. You can file that appeal there, go through the steps, hit submit. We get that email almost immediately after you hit submit. Or you can come into the office. You can also, there's a link to find the appeal form. You can print that form off at home. You can fill it all out. You can mail it to our office. As long as it's postmarked by August 12th, it'll be a valid appeal.
Stacy, we've got some folks over here that have
My name is Tom Campbell, and I own a house on College and 6th in the historical district. And we went down to the assessor's office, who was, by the way, very kind and very knowledgeable. But one of the things he mentioned that impacted the assessed value of the house was what I would call the aesthetics. You know, I've got crazy house, built in 1892, and it's got gable roofs and corbels and all kinds of decorative stuff. And he said that was a major impact on how this house got assessed at the high value that it did. I thought to myself, well, one man's palace is another man's slum, you know? And consequently, I got to thinking about it, so I did some research, and the things that people are looking for are big pantries, big kitchens, open format. Well, an old house doesn't have any of that. A lot of downsides. You got to be a special kind of maniac to buy an historical home. You really do, because it's just one blatant nightmare after another. But it was the aesthetic and appraisal part that annoyed me. The fact that because of the ornate exterior of the house, that appreciably increased what they consider the assessed value. And I don't understand how that should be part of the equation. Thank you.
We want to give everybody the opportunity to ask a question. So if you've already asked something, please wait until everyone has had a chance to ask, and then we can come back and pick up second and third questions.
Patricia Johnson, 222.
Wait a minute, hold on. We got too many people talking. Tom asked if there was a response to his question.
Okay. What you're talking about is basically how we grade a home. And grading a home is something that comes with experience and knowledge. You gain that by doing this over and over and over and over and over. A basic rectangle house with a hip roof or a gable roof, no dormers, one roof line, that basic house is basically a 100-grade home. That's basically the starting point. Then as you have more roof lines, you have more gables, you have soldier brick over your windows, you have arched windows, you have 30 corners around your home, you have bay windows, you have all of that. All of those incorporate into your grade. So that's what he was referring to by aesthetics of the house. A house with all that would not be graded the same as a basic rectangle home with a single roof line.
My question is, why not?
Because you have to grade them that way. That's a higher quality home than a just base house.
And Tom, remember, you went and met with them. If you weren't happy with that process, you have the next steps that you can go through. So encouraging you to be able to do that, and then you can make that case. So, Stacy, where are you at back there in the back? Okay, go ahead.
Patricia Johnson, 222 3rd Street East. Just a question about the appeal process. If you get approved for the appeal, how long is that appeal good for? Is it just a year, 2 years?
In our office, if you come in and do that, you have an appeal waiver form. It is a promulgated form by the state of Georgia. The only thing that in our office we can change on that form is your final value. And if we agree upon a value, that's your value for this year. It could change next year, the next year, or the next. Now, there is a spot on that form that if you go to the BOE, then you would get, if you go to the BOE. Now remember, that's big if.
You don't use acronyms. Say that.
Then it could get a 3-year lock, which is current plus the next 2 years, providing you don't make any other improvements to the property.
Okay, hold on. We can't hear the question if there's mumbling. So again, I understand your frustration, but hang on just a minute so we can hear these questions. Yes, sir.
We've been talking a great deal this morning about the Department of Revenue. And we also know, I believe, from our reading that what's going on in the state capitol right now, the biggest issue in the state of Georgia, biggest issue in the state of Georgia for most citizens, property tax. We got a state senate right now supposedly has already got legislation that's been passed, unless I misread it wrong. They would put legislation in passed where their recommendation would be something like no increase beyond 3% 1 year, or whatever the case may be. My point is this: we're dealing with this on the Tifton issue. We've got a state issue. It sounds to me like the legislators need to grab hold of this, and the counties work with the legislators so we're on the same page, not working backwards. Because this whole process, if everybody goes to 159 counties on tax legislation, it's not going to be a mess, it's going to be a disaster. So if there's legislation in place right now, my question is really this: don't we need to work more through the state capitol with the legislators? The Senate's already done that, and I was reading right, if I was right, they were looking to vote on that in November.
Right.
There's a lot of people here with a lot of questions.
Yes.
Is it not right to try to get this thing done right for the people of the state of Georgia and Tifton and everyone else, and dealing with one issue here today? The next issue we're dealing with somebody up in Catoosa, or whatever the case may be.
You're absolutely
I've
right.
also read that in the United States of America, this is one of the biggest issues for all states.
No question.
It's something that needs to be addressed. There's too many stuff, and I really question what does the Department of Revenue have to do with all these individual issues. They're a state agency. They're not the governor. They're not the legislation. We need to get our ducks lined up and do it the right way.
You're absolutely right. And do you know who responds? Do you know who responds? Do you know who the legislators respond to the most? You. Contact your state legislator. You can Google their name and get, now we've got some new ones coming in. We've got to get them educated. But again, and this is what's so frustrating about being in local government. You have all these mandates that are given, whether they're federal mandates or state mandates, with extreme conditions if you don't follow those mandates. We have to follow those mandates. We don't like it either. We have to follow, but your legislators want to hear from their constituents. They hear from me all the time about various things. My voice does not carry as loudly as your voice. So I encourage every one of you, call them, email them, get in touch with these new legislators that are coming on board and say, this is extremely frustrating and it makes me angry and I need you to fix it. Because none of what we're talking about is local legislation. None of it. It's all state regulation. And again, if we don't abide by it, we get slapped on the hand and punched in the eye and kicked in the gut, and that impacts you. So contact your legislators, please. That is one of the best things you can do. Go through this appeal process. Go to Superior Court if you need to. Fight your battle. We wanted you to have the tools that you have available to do so. It is not Hayward's intent or my intent or these gentlemen or anybody, and county commissioner or school board, to make you pay more money. But we do have a law that we have, several laws that we have to abide by. So again, I know that the message is not one that's palatable to eat. It leaves you with a lot of heartburn and stomach lining erosion. But all we can do is provide you the access to that information. Okay, you got the mic. Okay, good.
Hi, can you hear me? Debbie Groves, 1209 North Central Avenue. My property doubled. No gables, nothing pretty, extraordinarily plain, no pool, no carriage house, no nothing. My question is, why did we utilize a company that's data and analytics has been called into question so many times, and then Chattooga County refused to pay because it was so bad?
I can't answer anything for another county, and I addressed y'all earlier how we reached out to several corporations to try to get quotes to provide this revaluation. We hit a dead. This was the only company that gave us a quote.
We didn't court anybody with the
This was put on the state procurement website, and absolutely no response to it. What is it?
There's 69 counties that have this problem.
They're not doing them all. Some of those other companies were already committed to other counties and could not get to us, so they didn't even give us a quote because they were already maxed out on the volume of work they could do.
Yes, I'm Darrell Denham from Orchard Circle, and the property values in our community increased from 11% to over 100%. And that's going to be very hard to use things like millage to go back since, we're going so high in the first place. But my problem really, or my question really relates to what the gentleman back there spoke to. It was House Bill 581 that caps the amount of assessments, of home assessments at 3%. It's passed there, it's going to the Senate. And the biggest thing is I don't understand why we couldn't have sought a waiver for 1 year if this is coming through. Say 3% and let market set the values, market adjust values for a year to see what happens. And then you're going to be regulated by the state anyway, and then it would be 3% and go on. So why couldn't we seek a waiver and get that?
I'm trying to really understand the exact question, Mr. Darrell.
The House bill proposes a cap of assessments of 3%. House bill sets an assessment no larger than 3%. So if you got a waiver and said, we'll do that this year, we'll do 3%, because we know that's coming anyway. And then wait till next year it's going to be a state mandated, probably, or the year, I think most of us are going to be inspired enough to go out and get our legislators to vote for that. That it passed in that one 52-0. So it'll go to the House and if it passes there, it'll be law.
That's going to be on the referendum to vote on in November.
Yeah, but will that affect?
That will affect homestead properties.
But I mean, this year's tax bill will be one we receive.
We haven't got a bill yet.
But I'm saying we can't adjust. as much as they've gone up.
Right,
And I've got a question later about millage. I won't ask it now because I go one question at a time.
okay. And that's an excellent question. I don't know if the Department of Revenue allows for a waiver.
It'd be interesting to ask.
It would be interesting, and we will ask that, because that's a great question. Do you know, Hayward? I don't deal with the Department of Revenue, you do. So
The only waiver you have when you file an appeal is the waiver we have right now. That's it. The city and local governments can't trump the state law.
It just seems very coincidental that a year before possibly this is legislated, all these people have been through stress.
Okay, let me answer that real quick. We started this evaluation process back in 20 and 21. That bill you're talking about got proposed in 2024. We had no idea that some legislator was going to write that beginning for 2024.
They also did one on the other buildings. They've got one on too.
All right, Daniel?
Hey, Mr. Lee. I got a question about your property. And you're in the same situation as most of all of us.
Right.
Most of our properties have doubled.
Right.
All right. How long have you been a realtor?
20 years, but I'm not here as a realtor.
No, it's a professional question.
Okay.
So you know I do. If I carry that house to the bank and I want to do they're going to do an outside appraisal for an in-house loan. That's the same exact appraisal that the GMAS is allowed to do because they're not allowed to go inside your home. So you know, like I do, your valuation would come back probably about 200, maybe 225 on your house, because they cannot walk inside and see what you have. They don't know if your house that was, say, was built in the 70s, it may have the original floor, original everything, but if it's updated, it's worth a whole lot more money, and the assessment they put on you, just like the rest of us, is at top of the value as if everybody's got granite and marble.
And I know where you're going, and I hear what you're saying. There are different kinds of property valuations. Let me say that first. Second of all, we have to go through the appeal process.
Well, I understand.
I can't change it. We have to appeal it.
Well, and here's the thing, and the reason that appealing it is very important, I do agree with that. I think our local government, and especially Hayward, should have been standing up to the powers to be above GMAS and said, we feel this is wrong. We want an investigation from the state on GMAS. Okay. Now, and hang on, all right. So as of right now, if we accepted this valuation, your property tax, if the county went to zero, which we know will not happen, right? If the city went to zero, which we know will not happen, the school board can only go to a 14 mil before they start losing federal funding or state funding. Your property tax is still going up $1,000 if everybody went to zero. So there's no way around this. Yeah. And what we really need is the county and the city, and especially Hayward, to let's run this up to the state of Georgia. And the GMAS does have somebody they have to answer to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be authorized to work for the state.
Okay, let me make one statement. And I'm not trying to pass the buck, and I'm not trying to disparage our friends at the County Board of Commissioners. The County Board of Commissioners controls this process, not the City of Tifton. However, you have my assurance if the County Board of Commissioners will agree to this, because they're driving the bus. I will be on the first seat right behind the driver as the City of Tifton, and I think my fellow council members will. So we don't have, Hayward is an employee. He doesn't have the ability to address policy decisions and things like that. That's the commissioners. That's why I wanted all of my council that could be. So anything that relates to city policy, we can address. But if you will reach out to your Board of Commissioners and ask that question, we will join them. Now, I can't speak for the school system. So you'd also have to reach out to your school board representatives and say, if the city and county take this matter up to Atlanta, will you please join them? In the meantime, all of you be contacting your legislators and say, they're coming. So help us.
Ms. Julie, this is obviously out of control. And it's not your fault.
I know.
100% not your fault.
And that's what we wanted to have this so you can share your
concerns. We are
concerns.
past the point of we should be going to our county commissioners and our city councilmen and asking them to do this. Y'all should be doing this on our behalf. That's what everybody was elected and appointed for. And if Hayward and anybody that's appointed is not going to go up to the state of Georgia and fight for us, then it's time for him to be replaced.
That's right. Okay. Well, we're not going to get into that. And Hayward works for the county county manager. Is that right? Board of Appeals. I'm sorry, County Board of Assessors, which is Jeff Gibbs over here. But we do need to. I mean, that's an excellent idea and something that I'll commit that we'll do. So. Anyway, who has not had a chance to? Oh, wait a minute. Where's Stacy?
I'm right here.
Okay, she's back in the back. Okay, Stacy.
Good afternoon. My name is John D. Crosby. I live at 803.
We can't hear you.
My name is John D. Crosby. I live at 803 40th Street East in Tifton. Been there since 1988. I bought a small frame house because I wanted to improve on my property, and I did. I took 2 jobs on hard money. I did that improvement. I still do 2 jobs. I drive a school bus. I do lawn care. I'm 80 years old. Is there anything in this county? I didn't ever know I would be a senior citizen, but I have been for a while. But what about senior citizens in this deal? Okay?
Exactly. Let me give you some information. If the house that you own is your primary residence, in other words, it's not a secondary residence and your primary property is in North Georgia or something, you can file for homestead exemption. And as a senior within the City of Tifton, there's additional exemptions that you can file for within the city. So please go down to the tax office and ask them, say, this is my name, this is my address. I want every single exemption out there for me and my circumstances, and they will apply those for you. But you have to ask for them.
I did that. Then recently I found out there's another exemption I can get because I'm a senior. You can only file for it in April. I was not notified when I asked for all my exemptions. Is that true? We can get another exemption if we file.
You can actually, we think you're saying you have to file for it before April. The return time is January 1 through April 1.
Okay.
However, homestead exemptions, we can accept year-round. If you come in after April 1st and you come in to apply for your homestead exemption, that homestead exemption goes into effect for the next following year, not the current year. If you're there before April 1st, it applies to that current year.
The problem I have with all of that is I asked, was this all the connections I could get? And they told me that. They never said anything to me about January 1 through April 4th. For any senior citizens in here, you need to go, like he said, and file for this other exemption. So, I thank you for the time, and no, I'm not happy with this. Do we have to file every year?
No, sir.
No, once you file, it's locked in. You're done.
Until you move to a different location, it stays with you at that location. Now, if you sell that home, buy a new home, that's the taxpayer's responsibility. You have to come in and apply for your new location.
Now, I didn't get an answer on the senior citizen. Is there anything other than what we're talking about for senior citizens?
Not knowing your exact specific to your property, I can't answer that right now, but I'm sure that my ladies in my office got you all you could get.
Well, no, they didn't go. They didn't tell me about April. But I'll be back up there. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is David Coffey. I'm a certified residential appraiser who lives in Fitzgerald, but I have a daughter who lives in Tifton. Matter of fact, I'm going to cut her grass right shortly. Could I see the chart back you had on there a moment ago?
Hang on.
Understanding the data that you're looking at on a trend chart is particularly important. And that chart shows about can I get
that one?
That chart shows about 3 years, is it?
Yeah.
4 years. If you notice, it starts out just slightly below $60 a square foot, and then peaks out at somewhere around about 140. And what particularly is interesting to me is what houses sold in 21 and 22 that led to that increase, and what houses are selling now that have led to that decline, because that's a decline. Now, what we don't know is where that's going in the future. I don't have a crystal ball, neither does this group. But I look at trend statements a lot. And that appears to be a third order polynomial, maybe a fourth, that shows a pretty dramatic increase. And what I haven't heard is what sales, not specifically, but what type of sales led to that increase. And I know that right now, because I'm doing an appraisal right now in Tifton. And I pulled a lot of this data walking into that appraisal. And what I'm seeing is a majority of houses are new construction, not existing homes. And that is a significant difference. So, as well as if you could, Mr. Hayward, touch on the 40% significance of that number, that assessed value in relation to fair market value.
Okay. First of all, so let me answer the first part of your question if I think I heard you correct. This is fair market transactions. This is a home, like I said earlier. It could have been 800 square feet. It could have been 5,000 square feet. It could have been on a quarter-acre lot. It could have been on a 50-acre tract. It's just an average. That's just showing that the prices are going up. That's all that is. That does not necessarily, that's not isolated to a specific group of homes. That's everything within the county. This is driven from sale transactions that are recorded at the clerk of court, where a buyer and seller exchange property. That's it. The 40%. The state law says we assess values at 40% of fair market value. That's where the 40% comes from. Every county in the state does that, as far as I know. If they're not following state law.
Some states are 60, some are 75, some are 100.
Correct.
On to the point, that's just smoke and mirrors. The number doesn't change because you're using a percentage of and applying a mill rate to it. It's just something the state legislation came up with in the 30s when they came up with this process.
You may know more than what I do about that, but that's what I know is the process, yes. You have a value, a mill rate applies to that value, that mill rate determines the amount of tax, that amount of tax is determined by, and I'm getting way out of line because it's not my department, but the budgets. And that's Ms. Julie, the school board in the county, not me. I just do the assessment of value. That's it.
Can I do a backup question? On the 40%, Hayward, you spoke about there's a mandatory reval the state will impose on you at 36.95?
No. When we fall below that 36 ratio, they send us this nice, nasty letter that you shall get this ratio corrected.
What kind of dollar figure in digest is a 1% variance? If everybody was at 40% and there was a downshift, you had it at 39. What kind of dollar figure is attributed to 1%?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. We're talking about the digest of the entire county of every property in the county. Because that digest number is over $1 billion.
Understand?
So 1% would be basically, you could just for simple math, 1% of $1 billion.
Well, it's actually
a 1% term.
It's actually 2.5% because 40 times 2.5 is 100. So a 1% shift in that assessed value, or 2%, it actually is 2.5 times whatever that number is. So, and listen, I've been on the tax board and I work with the tax office and I look at lots of data every day, all day. Their job is incredibly difficult. But having said that, it got out of control.
What part got out of control?
You let it go more than 1%. You got to stick to it.
Right.
afternoon. My name is Shannon Gibbons. I live on Adams Road in Chula. And my question is, we're going through this because the housing market has increased and all of our values have increased in our homes. What happens when the housing market crashes?
That's a very easy question. Very easy. You see that right there? The bottom number is 36. The high number is 44. If the market, if that trend we showed right there was the reverse direction, then we would be reassessing the value of the properties and the property values would go down. Now, wait, let me tell you this, and let me finish. In turn with that, then your millage rate is too low to satisfy the county, city, and school board's budget. So your millage rate would in turn most likely increase. And your tax bill would be about the same. Either way.
Okay, so my name is Kim. You had to have known before you sent those notices out.
If you don't mind, because we're keeping records, can you state your name and your address?
Kim Woodlawn Avenue. Okay, so you had to have known before you sent those notices out that it was going to draw this type of crowd. It was not going to sit well with us. And you're asking us to pay double and triple in a few months. Have you done everything you know to do before you sent those notices out? And is the appeals process the only way that we can get our taxes, property taxes down?
No, the appeals process is to get your value down. There's a difference between taxes and value. They're tied together. But what you're talking about, I think, is to get your value down. That the appeal process is what you have to go through.
But did you all do everything y'all could?
Now, we didn't have anything, the City of Tifton didn't have anything to do with that. That would be a question for the Board of Commissioners. So, and there's no Board of Commissioner representation here. You have a Board of there's someone on the Board of Commissioners who represents you. So I would encourage you to contact them. I don't know their districts. I would encourage you to contact them. This information is for, what we're doing this morning is just for information only. It's just information, and it's hosted by the City of Tifton, who has no say, just like you do. But we did have access to information, and we did have access to data that we wanted to share with all of you. So for those types of questions, you'll need to talk to the Board of Commissioners. I don't know if our Board of Assessors Chair, Jeff Gibbs. Jeff, is there anything you could add to that? I've not called on you to come and participate, or to Chad, our Tax Commissioner.
Everybody's mad because of what their tax bill is going to be. And I understand that. I'm not real thrilled about what mine's going to look like. But we don't know what that's going to be. Even though your home might have decreased in value 100% or more, we don't know what the millage rate's going to be yet. And so we need to wait to find out what that is to get a lot of answers. And so I'm saying this has been a long, drawn-out process. It's a difficult process. We had a lot of property that was undervalued because it had not been revalued since 2003, and therefore it jumped up real high when we tried to bring it up to a level. We tried to, fair market value is an attempt to get everybody on the same level. I'm not saying it's worked as well as it should. But everybody's property is fair market value. We are all working on the same level. We don't have people that are overvalued. We don't have people that are undervalued. Unfortunately, we got in that position because we hadn't revalued anything in 19 years. So we're getting back on the level. That doesn't mean there are not adjustments that can be made to this.
Okay, hold on just a minute, because it's hard with all the private conversations. It's hard for us to hear up here. So if you could please hold your comments until an appropriate time.
That's not true.
Hold
Resets it when you sell your house.
on one second. They can't hear when you say something like that. Okay, the gentleman said that your statement, Jeff, was false. That is not true, that a market resets when you sell your house. I don't have an answer to that. I'm going to let Hayward, as a tax assessor. answer
What did
that.
I say? I didn't say that the market assessment changes. So I didn't say that.
The market does not change on one sale. And that's basically what I think you're trying to say, Mr. Neal. When you sell your house, that becomes the market for that property.
Your particular house is going to change. The value, you're going to be reassessed at the value that was sold at.
No, we can't do that. That's called chasing the sale. If you go out and sell your house for $750,000 today, that becomes part of a sales ratio study if that was a fair market transaction. That does not mean we go in and reassess your house at that sale price, if that's your question.
Then I don't think it makes sense. The market should set the price.
That's what we've done, market correction. That's exactly what's been done here is a market correction because the market is demanding more for the sale of property.
What I said was I think the market should set the price, and it makes sense. If you're selling your house for $250,000, then they should reassess it at that. If that would make sense to me rather than wait. If I sell a house to somebody for $250,000 and it's assessed at 90, you mean that person doesn't pay taxes until 10, 12 years later on that new adjustment?
That's not an adjustment.
Or assessment?
That's not an adjustment.
Right.
Trust me, if we did that, there's some of y'all wouldn't be in the room because when you bought that house for $300,000 and we had 150 on it, and you lived in a neighborhood that all the homes were almost identical, and we changed your value to $350, but everybody else was at $150, the first thing you're going to do is, why is mine $350? That's not uniformly assessing property values. That's not uniformity.
I'm Jim Wilson. I live at 706 West 18th Street. Did we as a city fail to make these assessments from 2003 to 2024? And if we did, why?
Ratio study. Y'all still answer the question. Ratio study. Every county in the state is required to be within 36% assessment level, 44% assessment level. With the sales that are collected by the Department of Audits, and they send that report every July to every county in the state. It goes to the board of assessors, it goes to the county commission, it goes to the tax commissioner. As long as you're within that range, your assessed values are okay. You don't have to go in and make changes and increase value at all because you're close to the market. But when you get outside of that ratio, that's when you have to take action. You either are overvalued or you are undervalued as a whole, not individual. A lot of y'all are thinking individual. Individually, you need to come in and file an appeal if the value on your property on that assessment notice you feel is too much. Then we will look at that. But yeah, I think this is mass appraising the entire county, every square inch of the county, every house, every business, every tract of ag land, and all of that, all at one time.
You asked, was the city remiss in not doing something sooner? The city does not have an assessment department. That's a county function. So we don't have an assessment department. We don't have, now people pay business taxes to have a business license or something like that, but we do not have a property tax. That's all done, that's a county level service that is provided to all of the municipalities within the county. So we, just like you, you heard Hayward say who received that letter. The City of Tifton was not on that list. I did not know about it. These gentlemen did not know about it. The city didn't know about it. Until, like you, we were notified not too long ago that, you know, this is what's fixed to happen. And so it's a county level function. So we're in this boat with you, which again is why we wanted to have this meeting today, to try to give you as much information as possible. If you hear nothing from this meeting, appeal, appeal. I mean, that's, I know it's frustrating to have to take your time and go and do that, but you have that right to go and do that. So, but the city had no knowledge of that.
Wesley Luke, 11 Springfield Drive. I get it, I understand this is an assessed thing. It's not the bill, we'll get the bill later, and I understand how millage works, and the bill will more than likely be significantly less than what it's saying. But the assessed value affects a lot of us that have financed on those making escrow or homeowners. It's probably going to go up significantly because it's increased value, so there's going to be an added cost also attached that comes along with this higher assessment.
If I understand you correctly, your main question is, this may affect your mortgage payment. Some of you that have a mortgage got affected last year when the governor did a homestead tax relief grant and gave everybody between $400 to $600 off on their homestead exemption. Some of you might have ended up with a surplus, and I bet your mortgage company sent you a check and said you had a surplus in your escrow account, and they adjusted your payment down. Now that the governor didn't do that this year, you're going to have the reverse of that. But yes, it will affect it, and the only difference this year is our assessed value, but still what you're talking about is going to be reflective of your tax bill, not the assessed value.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I know the bill part, but I'm saying that this assessed value will affect our insurance we pay on our homeowners. And will be significant. It's a double assessed value, so my insurance will be significant. I had the same situation happen at a rental property I own in Florida. They had a significant increase in assessed value, and insurance and taxes significantly increased with that.
We've got, for those of you who've been so patient and standing all this time, we've got some chairs that have opened if you want to come and sit down and at least get comfortable for the last little bit. Where's Stacy? There's.
Julie, I like to say this, at the end of the day, people are not upset with you. They're upset. They're going to lose their homes. People in here, if you look around, there's mostly senior citizens.
I know.
They can't afford to pay all that extra.
I know, and that's why we want to give you what they said was, most folks are senior citizens, you're on maybe limited or fixed income, you're really concerned about what's happening. We all are worried about this. We just want to make sure that everyone has all the resources available to address this as best you possibly can. Daniel made the comment about an entourage up to Atlanta to knock on the doors of the people that make the decisions. We'll do that. I don't know if it will have impact upon this year or next year. As you know, it's very frustrating. The wheels of government move extremely slowly. But we will do everything possible to. And like I said, Jessica's taking notes, so all of these questions are being recorded. We can take a list of questions. We're with you. We hear you. But understand the answers are only what the answers are at this point in time until we can possibly make change. And I'm not going to guarantee change, but we do hear you. Where's Stacy? Back there, way back to the back.
Hi, my name is Bridget Sally. I live at 111 West 15th Street here in Tifton. My question is, since we're waiting for I'm going to piggyback off the gentleman just spoke. If we have to wait for the assessment bill, and we have to appeal, and I have this $1,500 bill, am I going to have to pay that bill by November?
No, ma'am.
I mean, what do I have to do?
You don't have to do anything but go through the appeal process.
I just have to wait for the appeal process?
You have to go through the appeal process. You will not be billed for your tax bill that you saw mine up there. Mine was last year. You won't receive that bill, and your escrow account won't be billed for your mortgage, if you have a mortgage, until the tax digest is set and until the millage rate is set. So that assessment that you got that looks so crazy high, that's not a bill. That's just information. So you don't pay a thing, not one thin dime, do you pay until the value for the whole county is set, and then the millage rate for the city and the county and the school system is set? You don't do a thing. You're not delinquent. Normally, our tax bill comes out October, November, around there. It's due at the first of the year. If that doesn't happen because we're still in the appeal process, then it doesn't happen. You will not be penalized because the taxes were paid later than they normally would be. That's not your fault. So you don't pay anything. None of you will pay that bill that assessment notice. That's not a bill. So I want to assure you about that. And let me, while I've got the mic just for a quick second, talking about millage rate. If millage rate were to increase for whatever reason, let's say we did something crazy and said, we're going to keep all this money. We like the thought of that. We're going to do all this stuff with it. We cannot increase the millage rate, not the city, not the county, not the school board, without 3 public hearings, of which you would all be present at and ready to run us out with pitchforks and tar and feather us on Main Street. So there is no kind of secret agenda to raise property taxes based on a millage rate. We are required, again, by state law, to have those 3 public hearings before we can do anything with the millage rate. Now, it's not required to lower it. That's the difference. And you have our commitment. We're going to lower it as low as we can possibly get it. But you don't owe anything.
Okay. Being that we're not going to owe anything, I have another question. If we are being billed for this amount, once they make the adjustment, where is the money going? What are we doing with all this money? What are we going to do with the money that we accumulated for us as a consumer?
Okay.
What are we going to put to
Okay. That's a very in-depth question. We don't have time for this morning. However, are you I missed your address. Are you a City of Tifton resident?
Yeah.
Okay. If you will contact me, do you have a phone?
Yes.
229-339-1776 is my phone number. I will be more than happy to sit down with you. The City of Tifton at the end of the year publishes an annual report, and we show you where your tax dollar goes. I will be happy to sit down and answer any questions for you concerning how your general fund money is used, as will any of our council members. All right, Stacy, where's Stacy? Where'd she go? How did you, Hayward? Yes.
Nice truck. Hayward.
Yes, sir.
I feel like I'm talking with someone. Why didn't we assess the property in-house rather than hire somebody? Because we all are friends and neighbors, and wouldn't we have had a little more knowledge about what was going on in our community?
Hayward, don't forget your name and address. I know that's
okay.
you are, but I just want to keep reminding you.
I'm Hayward Fowler. I live at 1018 Park Avenue in Tifton. Both my properties went up $100,000 each. Okay. Now, why didn't our office, our assessor's office, why didn't we do the work? Well, I mean, we paid $600,000 plus.
That's
What
great.
did we do?
Okay. There's roughly 19,350 parcels in Tift County. Y'all let that sink in real quick. We have 3 field appraisals. Now, y'all, all the good you got a phone, you do 19,350 parcels divided by 3 individuals going out to review your parcels, plus having to go out and do all the permits that are issued, all the conservation use applications that are issued, plus all the tax credit returns that come in, sale reviews that we do, and everything else that we're required that we have to maintain on a daily, weekly, monthly, annually basis. Then the collection of all this data and everything. Y'all, we work 8 to 5 nonstop, every day, all year long. There's not enough staff in our office to do a complete countywide revaluation.
Well, Mr. Beck,
Yes.
this company hired outside people to come in here to do this. Couldn't we have found some folks to come in and help your team do this and kept this in the house?
That's
So
exactly what we hired this company to do that and help us.
Are you aware that this company that did this is involved in some lawsuits?
I am not.
Did you look online to see about the reputation?
I know their reputation. I know most of these people personally too. Most of the people for this company are retired or former Department of Revenue field agents that govern counties previously. They come in and look at how we operate to make sure we're operating according to the way we're supposed to.
Well, did all of them have their paperwork?
And I didn't hire anybody. Let me rephrase that. My particular office didn't hire anybody.
Were all of them qualified to do the job they did?
To a degree, yes.
Yeah. To a degree?
Oh, yes. But we're talking years worth of data to go through and analyze and correct. And listen, that takes a lot of time. Lots and lots of time. I have a family, and I like to go home with them occasionally.
Do you realize that?
Let me finish that comment. For those of y'all don't know, I have been at my office almost every morning since last week before 7 o'clock, and I have not left till almost 9 o'clock. Miss Emily sent me a text the other day, and I responded to her. I said, we're going to have to meet before hours or after hours.
Mr. Beckman, I don't care. I don't care, Mr. Beckman.
Right.
You knew what was going on, and y'all slipped and let us get behind, and now you're driving to our work. Yeah, I'm not going to argue. Here's one more thing, and this is the last thing I want to say.
Let's don't make accusations.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
please.
please don't. Let's
I
keep this very.
apologize for raising my voice.
Let's keep this simple.
Okay, now one more thing that I want to say, and then I'm gonna quit, okay? We looked at everybody's property had to have a picture made of it. And my people that investigated this looked at the time print on that picture. Do you realize some of these were assessed in 3 seconds? Because if you look at the time stamp.
Okay, hang on, hey, Rebecca says she has an.
Okay, I'm through. I mean, I've said enough.
I was in the field for 18 years, every single day, in that truck, knocking on doors, assessing property. There's been hundreds, if not thousands of times that when I got finished and I got out to the truck, I went click with my camera, I drove to the next house, went click, and then I got out and did that thing. That's your 3 to 5 to 10 seconds, whatever you're coming up with. And if it was from this house to this house, it could have absolutely been 10 seconds. That's up to that field appraiser that's out there doing that job, how they take those pictures. They didn't necessarily get out, walk around, and do everything, then take the picture and then go to the next. So that answers that question, I hope, in a logical way. Some of them could have went and did the entire neighborhood, then came back and rode by picture.
Show of hands. How many people saw the replacement? Show of hands.
Please,
Throw me out.
please. I'm not going to throw you out. I'm just asking, please let's keep order. We've got a lot of people who want to ask questions. Hayward, please.
I'm through.
Okay, this gentleman would like to ask.
Yeah, I am Justin Brennan. We live in Forest Lake. We're new to the area. We've been here 2 years. I called actually the governor's office and spoke to the Department of Revenue this week. I filed a complaint. Their comment to me was actually on you that said, why haven't you assessed properties for 20 years? That was their comment. If you're saying that your office is not staffed appropriately for doing the assessments, but you're telling everybody to file an appeal, what is the staffing impact look like if 19,000 properties are filing an appeal?
At the end of the appeal time, which is August 12th, if we have appeal value in dispute of 8% or greater of the digest, if we get at that point, then we can't submit our digest to the state. We have to continually work through them and request extensions to get our digest. We have to work through them.
And I have some questions about the millage rate. So, did I hear you correctly in saying that the millage rate, if you're looking at that creation of the millage rate, right?
Right.
The first step is looking at the tax revenues from the property owners. Is that correct?
No, the majority of the general fund of the city of Tifton comes from the collection of property tax. So when we set our budget, say we need 32 police officers and 14 firefighters, whatever we need to fund the city of or to serve the city of Tifton. What is that going to cost? And that's how we establish our budget.
Yeah.
That's also that's when you go to public hearings so that the public can come in and comment or ask, and say, well, rather than 40 police officers, we want 80 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that's all a very public process. We are required by law to have a balanced budget in place and adopted by the council by July the 1st, or then we will be in violation. So.
Okay. I thought I heard that revenues were the first step and then expenses.
No.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay. The last question I have is, I don't know you. I saw an interview with Mr. Hayward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it said that the county had an excess. This was budget year 22. There was an excess of $9.5 million. A surplus. And then there was a fund that was, I guess, for disaster recovery that roughly around $25 million. If the millage rate is what it is today, and there's already a surplus of $9.5 million, and now you have this big lever of millage rate, and everybody's property taxes are increased, you have a pretty substantial lever for impacting all these people.
Let me interrupt. Yeah, we are, and I did say that the city of Tifton, not the county, but the city of Tifton has about a 6 to 9 month reserve that we have to hold, and we're required to hold something in reserve. This may come into play if we get to January the 1st and this has not been settled, if it's still up in the air. We have to pay those firefighters. We have to pay those people that work, the customer service people and those kind of things. If the work of the city continues to go on, we would draw from those reserves to be able to fund the work of the city. So it's just like in your household with your budget. It's good to have some money set aside.
Yeah.
You don't want too much, because if you do have too much, then you're right. Then the millage rate should come down and the budget should be reevaluated and that kind of thing. So, but having that money in reserves is so important to get us to a rainy day. If we have a rainy day, here we are, and we have to draw from that. Or let's say we have a horrific hurricane and everything's knocked out and everybody's injured, and we could pull from that reserves until we could get FEMA and other state and federal agencies in to help us. So having that money set aside is very important. We don't want to have more than is necessary, but we don't want to have a depletion that, if something happened, we couldn't survive. We don't want to have too little. It's kind of a delicate balance. Everybody that, the experts that I have access to within the state and through municipal associations and things like that recommend about a 6 to 9 months reserve. That's a healthy reserve. Like you said, more than that, you might want to adjust your millage a little bit or take some things off the budget. Less than that, you might not be in great shape.
And last thing, just to repeat this, but I think I heard you say is if there is going to be an increase or there's a request to make an increase to the millage rate, there are 3 public hearings that need to take place.
That's correct, yes. You will not get an increase in millage rate without being notified. 3 public hearings, you can come and state your concerns and then the council would vote. But I can guarantee you this council is not going to raise your millage rate. Nor will we keep it what it is right now. So.
My name is Arthur Perry. I live in Waterloo. The property that I have in Tift County is rental property. It's part of my personal retirement plan. It's been an ongoing thing for a long time. I realize that prices have went up, and I expect taxes to go up. I'm coming to meet with y'all next week, and I'm sure we can come to some sort of an agreement. But what I was sort of wanting a broader spectrum than what's in here today. I'm assuming most of these people are property owners. All right, I have my property professionally handled, and I'm assuming that they're charging rent what the market will bear. Being an investment owner, I don't qualify for any exemptions. So assuming that we pass that right on to the renters, these tenants are going to be paying more actual property taxes than what a homeowner will. And assuming that they're charging about what the market will bear, it's probably going to put some of these people into a position where they have to relocate. I mean, it's going to be a bad situation for a lot of people. So I just really want the overall public to be aware of what's gonna happen, because there's a lot of people in Tifton that's renting their homes.